guys see me? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Oh, yay. Okay, I don't have to do anything else. Okay, bye, baby. All right. We are live. Yay. Technical difficulties. Very happy to see you guys. Welcome into session 4. I apologize. Actually, I was all ready and I was really excited because I wanted you to see me pulling the cake out of the oven, and I had to take the cake out of the oven without you because of all of that. So anyway, but now you see the cake. It's behind me. And it's beautiful. So welcome in. I got to do one more thing really quick. I'll be off the camera for a second. I'll be right back. I'm back. Are you ready for session 4? Thank you. You are at home with me. If this is your first session 4, welcome to my kitchen. I have a couple things going. I have the Persian love cake going. I finished the cake part, but we're gonna do the frosting together. And then I have tri-tip. Keep figuring out my sides. I have tri-tip behind me that I'll talk to you about too. We were gonna do Greek chicken tonight, but we ended up doing tri-tip. I haven't had red meat in like a week and I've been craving it, so that's what's happening tonight. I'm gonna walk you through this cake step by step. The recipe is in your classroom, but cake is only one part of our magic tonight. We have other things to talk about. I can't stay all the way until 6:30 tonight. I hadn't planned for that because of a dinner reservation, so I'm gonna be with you until like 6:10. And then what I'll do is, I planned this anyway, but now it's gonna be sort of part of the class. I'm gonna do a bonus session for my garden because my internet out there is really wonky. And it's hard for us to get the internet to a point where we're not gonna have like some kind of weird fail on it, and I don't want that to happen. So I can't get my computer out there, but I'm gonna do it on my phone. So probably either tomorrow, Tuesday, or Wednesday, I'll be out in the garden with you for a little part 2, 15, 20 minutes in the garden to help you see what we're doing out there and what we're planting and what we're growing for the season ahead, and do a little planting with you, a little intention setting with you for that garden to grow. I want to share some of my tips of like fertilizer, stones that I work with, that I plant my herbs with. All the trees and flowers in my garden have been planted with stones, so I want to share all of that with you, but the internet may not hold up for us to do it tonight, so that'll be a kind of a part 2. Okay. I'm excited. So let me show you the cake. It's absolutely beautiful, by the way. And this is a fantastic recipe. If you are a baker, what I'm going to tell you is the cake part, easy peasy. It's the traditional dry ingredient, wet ingredient in the KitchenAid. I use my stand mixer to do it, but you can do it by hand with a whisk. Mix the wet and dry, not over mixing. This cake, you don't want to overbeat the batter, because this is a dense, kind of moist love cake, so you don't want to overbeat it. But I do want to show it to you because it's super beautiful and it turned out just perfect. And I have it on a drying rack right now. So this is our love cake. And literally, you guys, it could not have been, with this recipe, any simpler. And what I love is it's not completely gluten-free. You could actually do all almond flour. I did a hybrid of regular flour and almond flour, but you could totally do all almond flour and make this a totally gluten-free option if you wanted to, and some of you are gonna do that. You could also make it sugar-free if you wanted to use monk fruit as a substitute for regular sugar. I did regular sugar in mine. I did a mix of lemon and lime zest because I like lime zest a lot. I like the flavor of it. And don't overbeat your love cake, honey. So anyway, it turned out absolutely beautiful. If you're a perfectionist, so I'm gonna actually flip this with you and then frost it with you. We're gonna flip and frost tonight. If you're a perfectionist, you know, there are people who will flip this and take a really sharp knife and make a flat surface on it. So like it's totally perfect. I'm gonna flip it and frost the bottom of it, which is as close as I come. I'm not Martha Stewart when it comes to like is there a bump in my cake or whatever, I don't worry about that. I don't want to take anything off because I want to eat everything. So, okay, you had to add more water and lemon to your icing. That's good to know. Always with icing, and we're going to talk about icing tonight. It's actually a fun little metaphor for life. I love making my own frosting and icing. Ever since I was a little kid and I got an Easy Bake Oven, I was like, no, I'm making my own frosting. And so, always with frosting, you want to have all the ingredients ready, and then you want to have everything there extra, because the texture with frosting is everything, right? This one, you don't want it to be too runny, because if you do, it's going to slide off the cake, especially if you don't let it cool properly. So that's why my beauty is over there cooling, because you really want this one to be just under room temperature when you frost it. That way it's going to keep its texture. Powdered sugar frosting is temperamental, and if you pour it on a hot cake, have you done that before? It just runs over the top, right? It's just kind of like runny and loose. So you don't want that. You want this to be a thick frosting. Okay, I'm gonna pull I pulled all my chair and everything out of here to let Dave in, so let me pull this back, because actually the first part of class is not cooking. But I did want to share with you a couple of tips if you wanted to make dinner similar to what we're making tonight. So in our house right now, we are kind of not super low carbing, but low carbing a little bit. Just ahead of summer, wanting to kind of tone, and so we're working out and doing a little bit lower carb. So where we've been doing a lot of potatoes and sweet potatoes and things like that, we're doing more protein and low carb sides. So tonight we're doing asparagus with some garlic and feta cheese. And then the tri-tip behind me is super easy, and I want to share that recipe with you. And then also the cotopolo, the stuffed chicken that I'm doing tomorrow, super easy. So I'm just going to share these recipes with you. There's nothing to write down. I write things down for myself, just little notes, but the process is so simple I can tell you now. So if you want to do a good tri-tip, the secret is, and I dropped a box on my arm yesterday, so I'm bruised in different parts of my arm. I apologize. I tried to put a flash tattoo on because we went to an 80s party last night, and I was like, that doesn't look good. Literally I was pulling something off of a shelf and dropped a whole box on my upper arm. So it hurts a little bit, but I'm okay, but it just, in case you see all that. So the tri-tip, what you want to do is olive oil in a Dutch oven, okay, with salt and pepper, and you want to sear it really good. You want to get a nice brown sear on it, all sides, including the top and the bottom. So sometimes you're going to sit the tri-tip on its sides. Yeah, it hurts. And then you're going to make sure that literally every side of it is covered. There's a brown sear on it. And then you're going to cook it on low. Right now it's cooking. It's been cooking we put it on at 3 o'clock. So I've turned it twice. You're going to turn it every half hour. I set an alarm to turn it. I'll turn it twice with you. And I'll try to bring it so you can see it. It's heavy because we did 2 big tri-tip rows because everybody eats it. The kids love it. We love it. And it's super simple. At the last half hour, probably toward the end of class, I'm going to cut this onion up and add it in. I don't add the onion now because I don't want it to be like French onion soup. If you add the onion at the beginning of cooking the tri-tip, it doesn't retain its crispness. It kind of gets soggy. So, okay, let me turn the music down. So I'm going to add the onion with you. Onions are so important as a superfood. And sometimes I do mushrooms with it. I didn't do mushrooms today. So once I cook this tri-tip and it's all finished, I do tri-tip multiple ways. Some of it I'll take and mix with barbecue sauce and make barbecue tri-tip sandwiches. Some of it I'll take and I'll add to, I'm going to make chili in a couple days, like 2 days from now, so that's going to be great for chili. You can also take it and add it to marinara sauce and whatever you want to do. It's so good. It's very versatile, and it keeps nicely in the refrigerator. It reheats beautifully. So 5 hours or so, it should be ready, completely ready, maybe 4. So by the end of class, we'll be ready for dinner. And like I said, it's just better tomorrow. It's better the next day. The leftovers of that tri-tip are amazing. And then the stuffed chicken. So I might go live actually and show you the process for the stuffed chicken because I'm doing that tomorrow. I might show you that to you. It's super easy though. A whole organic chicken, you need goat cheese crumbles, feta cheese crumbles. I'm doing like a garlic herb feta cheese crumble. if you don't use a garlic herb feta cheese, then use your own Italian seasoning, olive oil, salt, pepper, that's it. So what you do is you take your chicken, you butterfly it, and then I put it in a large saucepan and just, with olive oil, salt, pepper, and my seasonings, I just brown it on both sides. And then under the skin, I pick up the skin, I stuff it with feta cheese, goat cheese, oregano, thyme, rosemary, garlic, everything under the skin, just an even layer, and then bake it in the oven at 350 for about half an hour to 45 minutes until the temp is right. It's the best roast chicken you'll ever have, and then you can make potatoes with that. You can make, like I'm doing asparagus, you can make a side salad with that. One of my favorite tips, because my boyfriend is a cook and he's really, really talented, but he has like all these great hacks that I never tried before. So he loves romaine. What we do is get the organic romaine in the plastic container, and he cuts it in the plastic container and then dumps it in a bowl, toss it with salad. It's like it's salads on the table in 2 minutes. So anyway, these are a lot of options for you if you want to do kind of the same detox I'm doing, which is all I'm eating right now is whole food. So whole fruit, eggs, lean protein. I took all the fat off the tri-tip before we cooked it. Lean chicken, I'm going to eat mostly white meat, and then asparagus, side salads, things like that. And you can eat as much as you want because you're not, you know, there's no sugar, there's not a lot of carbohydrates, so you can eat till you're full and still feel really strong and good. So I want to share all of that with you. We are baking cake, Ren, but I'm just sharing dinner because I also mentioned that I would tell you that I'm cooking dinner, and some people wanted to know about it. Okay, so the cake is baked. I'm going to teach you the history of the Persian love cake. Tonight, I'm going to do the frosting with you, and we're going to frost it together. Frosting is a very sensual experience, so I love to make it. And like I said, the only thing with frosting you have to think about is the texture. You don't want it to be runny because it will run off the sides of your cake. So you want it to be thick. This is more of a glaze even than a frosting, so you want to look for that texture. We'll do it together so you can see. Okay? Yay! Okay, so I'm going to go to our worksheets first because in addition to baking cake tonight, we are talking about your tool for tonight, which is your rattle. I'm obsessed with this rattle. This rattle was a long time in the making. It's rose quartz and copper, and it's such a powerful, versatile little tool to have whenever you need it, anytime, anywhere. But I want to talk about rattling, and in your worksheets, you know, we're talking about tracking energy. And I have a lot to tell you that's not in your worksheets tonight. It will all be in the notes. Don't worry, you don't have to rush to take notes on everything. But yeah, the worksheets for this session were incredible. So just kudos to Team SG. This is a team effort to put your worksheets together for you, but I think they're really beautifully done. And there's a ton of information in there that we may not focus on tonight, but that I think you're going to enjoy, and I'll kind of guide your attention when we get to those parts. And as always with session 4, this is kind of our go with the flow session. So if you have questions as we go, I'm super open to that. There's no hard structure to tonight. So as we go, if you're like, hey, tell me more about that, or could you show me this, I'm stoked to do that. So you can always interrupt. We don't have to save our questions for the end like we normally do. But at the same time, I want to go through the worksheets and make sure I cover everything that you were expecting for tonight so that you get what you need. Okay, I'm going to get my booty up on my chair. Okay. Any questions before I begin, by the way? Sorry for, it's a little frantic just because I was running around and trying to get a hold of Dave and figuring out the technology stuff. So now I'm going to settle into my cup of tea and just be with you for the time. Yeah, you can totally paint your rattle. And there's a lot of different things you can do. You know, we did give you the Herkimer diamonds that I think would be really beautiful. I have a surprise tonight. So I'm making a rattle tonight in our crafting together that I'm actually going to give away. To one of you. And I've been planning this. I love these little sweet moments when I get to tell you things. I've been planning this since Tucson, tonight's class, and thinking about, you know, this rattle because we'd planned it before Tucson, and I just love the idea of having a gemstone rattle. So when I was in Tucson, I'm like, I'm going to look for a perfect pink tanzanite. And that's what that is. That is a twin, do you see it? A tantric twin pink tanzanite. It's worth about $600. maybe more, because it's fully double terminated. You see it? Pink tanzanite is natural. If they heat it, it turns blue. But the natural pink is not common. In fact, this is only the second piece I've ever seen of really good natural pink tanzanite. What I'm going to do is I'm going to craft this rattle with the pink tanzanite on top. I'm going to use E6000 on it. So whoever wins this, it's a giveaway. No purchase necessary. It's just a thank you. But it's going to be probably the most expensive rattle you own. But when you get it, if you want to take the tanzanite off and just keep it, and you can take it off. E6000, you just kind of gently pull it and it'll come off. But so I'm going to make you a little love rattle, because pink tanzanite is all about the intuition that your heart tells you, right? Listen to your heart, not to your head, or lead with your heart, or lead with love, which has always been one of my mantras in life. This is the ultimate lead with love stone. So I've been saving it on this little tray since I brought it home. I actually brought it home in my toiletry bag from Tucson for tonight's class. So I've been holding on to it for a little while. I'm super stoked to make this rattle with you. And then it'll inspire you too, because I don't want to overdo my rattle. And I also don't want to put a stone where I'm going to hold it. So, you got to think about how you're going to use it. There's different ways to hold a rattle like this, but the sideways is my favorite way. And so if I put the tanzanite right on top, it's not going to interrupt my groove. Isn't it pretty? It's so pretty, you guys. So anyway, enjoy. I was super excited to bring that back from Tucson. I asked him, because he's the main kind of Tanzanian source for all things. I asked him if he had any more pink tanzanite. He laughed at me. Nobody has pink tanzanite. So, but you will on a rattle. So what I'm going to do after class is done is I'm going to take a picture of my finished rattle. I'm going to put it in our Facebook group, and then you guys can comment on it through maybe midnight Monday. Does that sound good, Karen? And then we'll choose and announce a winner on Tuesday. That way it gets everybody who watches the replay of this, they'll be able to enter to win it too. I just thought it looked so pretty with the rose quartz. It's such a different love stone. The energy couldn't be more different, honestly, but the hue and the shade is really similar. So it's my little surprise for tonight. Love cake, love stones, and then a really serious conversation about shamanism, which let's do that first, get that out of the way so we can focus on cake and icing. Aw, I love that, Ray. Yeah, and blessings to your husband. Quadruple bypass is no joke. A friend of mine had quadruple bypass in December and was supposed to come to my book signing. And so I was like, oh, there's no way she's going to make it. And I turned around and she was standing there. And right at the beginning of the book signing in Costa Mesa. And I looked up and I saw her. She lives in Orange County, so she was excited that I was going to be there. I looked up and I saw her and I went, I've known her since we were in college together down there. And I was like, oh my God, you're here. And she said, yeah, I can barely stand up. But I didn't want to miss your signing, but I got to go. So she came in and said hello and left. But I was like, oh my God, you just had quadruple bypass surgery. Like, what are you doing here? But all to say that I know a little bit about what that recovery process is like. So huge blessings to your hubby. And it's so hard. And hard stuff, as we get older, when we're young, we think we're invincible. We're never going to have challenges like that. And we get older and we're like, oh, yeah. Okay. What you need for your frosting, though, just in case you want to just be prepared, is powdered sugar. Powdered sugar is the basis of buttercream frosting. It's the basis of glazes like this. Once you learn how to make frosting with powdered sugar, you'll never do anything else. You can make powdered sugar frosting with orange juice and make like an orange glaze. You can make powdered sugar frosting with lemon juice and make a lemon glaze. Tonight, ours is a rose water based glaze, so you're gonna need powdered sugar if you wanna do it. You can grind up your pistachios. I did a little cheat because I have pistachio powder. It's pistachio flour, but it's just ground pistachios. So that's a little bit of a cheat. It's nice because it's all ground to a really nice texture and it's an even consistency, so it'll look nice on the cake. That's what the author of the recipe used, but it's up to you. Rose water, I'm going to talk about that for a second, and then what you need are rose petals. which I have here. So, and I dry rose petals on my own, but on this cake, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't love a ton of rose petals on the top of this cake. It's really for color and for interest because you don't want to be chewing rose petals. It's for me, it's like putting rose petals in your bath water. I love the concept of it, but I also love my drainage system. Like I don't want to back up my bathtub because of rose petals. So I'm putting these on more for, and I'm actually gonna put a couple in my mortar and pestle. I'm putting them on more for the energy and the color pop than I am for thinking that we're going to eat them. Although, and I love that Lena did candied rose petals. That makes me jealous, actually. Do I have time to candy rose petals? But you can use your mortar and pestle just to get these down to a finer consistency too. Or just use your fingers. You could do rose powder, by the way, which I like to make rose powder just in my food processor for incense and stuff, but you know, a few fine petals are okay. And like I said, these are edible food grade petals, so you don't want to, I mean, you can use your own garden petals, but don't use like hothouse petals that you dry or anything because those are not good for you. Rose water, I want to have a brief conversation about rose water. So I make my own rose water. The rose water that went into the cake is rose water I made at home. But for the frosting, I want the frosting to be pure white, and so I'm using store-bought rose water. You can get these on Amazon. You can get them on Instacart if you are lucky like me and you have a great Middle Eastern Mediterranean market, which we have in our neighborhood. That's where I went to get mine. I do want to show you though, like some of the mainline stores carry rose water, and Nielsen and Massey make a really beautiful vanilla extract. I don't love their rose water. Because when you compare it to, this is my favorite, the sawed-off, if you're Persian or Middle Eastern or Greek, we all know, sawed-off is the best for cooking. It's got a strong flavor, it's clear, so it's not gonna tint your food, unless you want like a pink tint, then you would make your own rose water. And the smell, if I could have you in my kitchen right now, is totally different. The Nielsen and Massey is super alcohol-y, and the sawed-off is just pure rose magic. Like, I love it. Now, would I put it on my skin? Not really. When I use rose water on my skin, I make my own. This is another brand I found, but I don't like it. So this is the one I love. This is the one I don't love. And this is the one that they have at like Kroger, and I don't love it because it's super alcohol-y, and this is not. It'll make your cake taste better if you use the right rose water, unless you're making your own. I don't add alcohol to my rose water, so that's why I prefer a true rose water as opposed to something that's meant to have a 90-year shelf life, which doesn't smell the same. Yeah, so strongly scented is nice. Clear is good if you want a nice white frosting, because otherwise you're gonna have a frosting that has like a pink tone to it, which again, it's up to you this is all up to you, with little tips and tricks. I do use, in the cake, I use Spice Island's cardamom, because in my experience, it's the nicest one. I've ground my own cardamom. You don't need to do that. You might as well use the store-bought, but I have 2 or 3 different brands. I also put cardamom in my coffee machine before I run my coffee machine, which is a really nice touch. If you love cardamom, it's an aphrodisiac. It stimulates the lower chakras, helps you feel grounded, safe, secure, connects you with your passion and your desires. And yeah, if by the way, all of this is on Amazon. Yeah, the sawed-off is food safe. It's one I've always used. It's they call it the Lebanese kitchen, so it's food safe. When I'm using rose water as like a facial product though, I would prefer to use stuff I make myself out of my garden versus stuff that I buy online. But Amazon has the sawed-off rose water, the pistachio powder has edible food grade rose petals, it has powdered cardamom. God bless Amazon. So if you can't find it on Instacart or in your local groceries, or you don't have a Lebanese or Middle Eastern grocer near you, you can always find those things on Amazon if you want them. Yeah. Okay. So Let's go to the worksheets. I want to start there. Let's do the academic part first, and then we'll get into the cake decorating and the more practical parts afterward. Okay, so energetic tracking is the subject of the night. Energetic tracking and energetic leaks. These are terms that come out of shamanism. So if you're like, well, these are not terms I'm familiar with, that's okay. I'm going to introduce you to the concepts tonight. Whatever your spiritual tradition or practice is, you've probably heard terms like this before. We just all have different names for them. So tracking and leaks or leakage are shamanic terms. That's always where I've learned them and heard them. And one of the purposes of plant medicine ceremony is to identify where energy is leaking in your system, right? So what does that mean? Energy runs through your body through the 7 chakra system. And if you have blockages in those chakras, it pushes the energy out and it can create leakage through your system. And so that looks like you constantly feeling tired and drained, being more susceptible to colds and flus. Those are all symptoms of energetic leakage. Not being able to sleep at night, excessive anxiety. Also picking up on other people's health challenges sometimes can be a symptom of energetic leakage. So we're going to talk about all of that today, and also how to, not only how to identify potential energy leaks, but also how to address them and treat them, which is really important too. So all of that is on the agenda for tonight. You put cardamom pods on your prosperity altar. I really like that. They are kind of, I mean, cardamom is about fullness and potential, right? So, and that you can apply that anywhere. So it can be about fullness of expression of your potential and your possibility. It can be about fullness and expression of your desires and your passions. So I think offerings to Lakshmi in the form of cardamom pods are really cool. It might be cool, Karen, since a lot of people, maybe you don't want to make the cake, but since a lot of you aren't able to easily find cardamom pods and rose petals and pistachios and things like that, it might be kind of fun to do like a little mini SG Persian love cake kit with a little bottle of rose water and a little packets of everything, so that you could do it at home. Something just to think about. If you guys want something like that, if you feel like you can find everything you need, then I'm all good with that too. But sometimes it's kind of nice if we can provide you with the basic ingredients. And by the way, all of these make great tea. They really do. And because there's citrus, remember citrus is a potentiator. So whenever we put citrus in food, and we put it in sauces, we put it in salad dressings, what it does is it activates or potentiates softer flavors. So what I know you can find are lemons and limes. And so you may want to also add some dried lemon or lime peel, or fresh peel to your tea, and then cardamom pods, a little bit of black tea, rose petals would make a beautiful tea too. So that could be your Persian love tea to go with your Persian love cake. Okay. So energetic tracking on page 24 looks like this. And like I said, I have things to tell you that are not on your worksheet. So just be prepared for that, and then just know that everything is coming in your notes, so you don't have to stress about it. You'll get all the information later. Okay, so have you ever known when someone has entered a room before you've heard them or seen them? Maybe you felt like you were being watched, only to look around and see your cat staring at you. These are examples or experiences of tracking energy. The number one thing I want to say is we are all tracking energy all the time. It is easier to track energy of someone you're very close to. So for me, it's easier to track my kids, my family, than it is to track people I've never met. And it's also easier, if you're not experienced in doing this all the time, it's easier to track people who are very close to you physically rather than at long distances. As you get better at this, and I have friends who are very good at this. I've told you these stories before. I have a friend who did remote viewing, which is a form of tracking for the government. So she actually was hired by the government multiple times to go in, and they would give her something that they're looking for, and she would track things by the coordinates. So it was she's impressive, and this is something that's part of her training. I don't think they do as much of that anymore. So like she told me she hasn't done it in decades, but there used to be a thing where they would go and they would evaluate you. Like you would, if you identified as a tracker, they would evaluate you. And then if you could successfully provide coordinates or locations of things that they could validate, then you would be hired as a tracker or a record keeper, as they called them. Yeah. Are you guys, am I on the right sheets? I hope I am. Oh no, I have the session 3 sheets. I do need the session 4 sheets. I don't have the session 4 sheets. I can fix this. This is what was on my desk. Sorry, I think it's because I'm pulling up my email right now to print session 4, and then I can go grab them real quick. I still want to talk about energetic tracking, but obviously not all the way through tonight. Okay, I don't think I have them, Karen. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think I have the final version of it, Karen. But I'm guessing all my rattling stuff is on there. So if you want to bounce that over to me, Karen, I can try to open that up and print that real quick. I have access to my printer from here. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, 2 seconds. I'm just going to pull these up real quick and print them, you guys. Yeah, in my tools for tonight, there wasn't a worksheet, so I grabbed what was on my desk and let's see. Sorry guys, bear with me 2 seconds. I'll keep talking while I print this. Okay, let me see. Actually, I think that they're combined actually in my little packet here. No, maybe not. Okay. I've got like half of it in here and half of it not. So let me go grab this off my printer. I'll be right back, you guys. Okay. I'm back. Okay. Yeah, is it dance party time? Like I want to have a dance party. Okay, so now I have in front of me. And let me just check my notes because I have a bunch on leaking. Doesn't sound good. Let me just make sure I cover all that with you tonight. Okay, so let's go to page 1, session 4. Okay, but everything I said still applies, and we'll cover off on the tracking part for session 3 more. I still want to talk a little bit about it tonight, but not all the way. So, the way you identify leaks is you track your energy. Now, you can track your own energy, you can track other people's energy, and then a shaman can track your energy. So when a shaman works with you on energetic leakages and removal of unwanted energy that we call extraction, you give them permission to follow you. And at first, I've done this a couple of times because it's really helpful to have a healer follow your energy line. It's one of the reasons why I work with the ayahuasca shaman that I do, because he goes in with me and he's tracking me through the whole process and ceremony. So he can see where I am. He notices when my heart rate changes. So if I'm under stress, he can see like what's going on, what are you looking at? And not everybody's really good at that. Some shaman are more gifted, I think, when it comes to tracking energy than others. But he's incredibly gifted at it, being able to follow and track where I am and what's going on. So when you track someone, you're able to see where they are dispelling energy, where they are releasing energy, and then you're also able to see in their own system where there is either a blockage, a leak, or some kind of disintegration, where the energy that's coming in is somehow not moving through the system clearly. And so what they're able to do, what a good shaman's able to do, and I can do it too, I will be candid with you, I don't like to track people unless it's specifically a service or that I'm offering to someone. And at this point, I don't even do it because it can be so draining. As soon as you agree to track someone, you're now in their field. And when you're really in someone's field like that, and you can almost see through their eyes, it is a profoundly deep experience. And not everybody is ready to move into someone's field and really experience what they're feeling. So all of your good spiritual hygiene practices come into play here, right? You want to make sure you've smudged and cleared the space. You want to make sure that you are working with that person in alignment around a specific intention that they have. You want to have permission to be in that person's field in the first place, because that's really important. And obviously, if they're coming to you, they're giving you permission. And then you want to watch your own boundaries and edges, because it's very easy to confuse someone else's energy with your own. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? And because it's not something that you can block off and say, well, for this hour, I'm going to track this person, but the rest of the day, I'm not. That's why I'm saying your own boundaries and your own energetic practices are really, really important if it's something you decide you want to do as part of your practice. And it takes a lot of training. So I do want to say, as a caveat, I'm not training you as a tracker tonight. This is something that would take something that would take years as an apprentice to be able to do. But I want you to be aware, because we're doing it whether we're aware of it or not, and we'll go into this more when we're together on Tuesday. Once we identify where energy is leaking, and you can instantly do this for people, and like I said, probably you're doing it and you don't even realize it. We now have tracking apps, right? Like I'm on this app with my kids, or I can see their location, I can see the driving and the speed limits and how long they're driving and all these things. These are new technologies, right, to be able to track people. But the reality is most tracking is done energetically. I can feel when there's something wrong. I've told you the story about my daughter's birth story, where she would have been paralyzed if I hadn't gone to labor and delivery when I did on March 15th, because I could tell that her heartbeat was off. I could tell by her movement. And so when I went to the hospital, they were like, yeah, she's stuck, and so I had to have an emergency C-section. But that was even my OBGYN at the time was like, I can't tell you how many times I've had moms in here with emergency deliveries because they know something's off. So I was tracking her in a way that nobody else could have tracked her. It's our job. Once you identify that there's a place where energy is being dispelled or dispersed through the system, and there's, like I said, we're going to talk about some signs and symptoms of this. These are steps you can take to notice where that's happening to you. So I want you to look at page 1. Paying attention to how you feel. When you are on your own, when you're with other people, what is your emotional state? Are you drained? Do you feel tired? Certain people are very good at wanting to be tracked, and so when you're spending time with them, it's like, why do I feel more tired after I spend time with that person than happy or energized? And it's because when you're experiencing someone else's energy leaks or your own energy is leaking, it's going to leave you feeling drained and fatigued. Evaluate relationships. If there are people in your life with whom you have constant stress, it's really time to evaluate those relationships. And I say that as somebody who, like, this is where I'm at in life. I'm literally looking around and going, if someone doesn't bring energy to the table, I don't want to spend time with them. I'm getting really clear as I get older how valuable time is. And I'm putting harder boundaries in place for how I'm willing to experience people in relationships that are draining. But again, sometimes you can't. We've had these conversations where it's like, maybe it's your mom and you're a caregiver, or maybe it's one of your children, or maybe it's your partner, that you live with and you're with 24 hours a day. And so I also want to talk tonight kind of candidly about what do you do when you're in these situations where you have to interact with someone that's actually causing an energetic leakage for you. And there's simple tips and techniques, and then there's more complicated practices that you can engage. Review your commitments, look at your schedule, conserve your energy. Some of us, I'm not a huge fan of human design, but I do think human design helps us understand our stamina and what powers us, right? So I'm a generator. I'm powered by my sacral chakra. So if I'm not turned on by life, then I'm tuned out and I can't be productive. So I've learned, like, spending time on my own inspiration, my own passions, actually for me makes me productive and helps me to hold my energy in an integrated way. So I used to, when I was younger, think, I don't have time to play, or I don't have time for relationships, or I don't have time for friendships. And then as I got older, I realized this is actually, sorry, Barbara, we were on session 3 for a minute, but we're on session 4 now. But I realized as I got older that play and even for me cooking and relationships and friendships, these are all nurturing of the integrity of my energy field, and I'm able to hold my energy in a more integrated way once I prioritize these things and deprioritize these relationships and dynamics that aren't serving. Watch your thoughts, watch your inner dialogue. Negative self-talk, constant worrying and anxiety can create energy leakages. Right? Have you noticed, by the way, that a lot of people who, like, now we have a term for this, we call it post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder is like a modern, in my opinion, psychological term that we apply to the symptoms of energy leakages. And in extreme cases where someone's come in and just pierced your energy field, right? It can be physical, it can be emotional, but when you've had a real violation of your energetic boundaries, that's a leak. And then you have to identify where is that leak and how do you stop it. And again, signs and symptoms, how do you know if you're dealing with that? But when I look up and when I read into topics like PTSD and complex PTSD, I just think, wow, this is like, they're really talking about energy and the symptoms of somebody being in a state of constant energetic leakage or loss. Check your physical health. If you're not getting enough food, trace minerals, you're not getting enough magnesium and potassium, which can make you feel extremely drained and tired. Magnesium is, for me, from a magical perspective, it's a non-negotiable. Like, even if you don't take any other supplements, I think magnesium, and if you can do it, like a sort of a multivitamin that has your trace minerals like potassium and like chromium and selenium and manganese, is really important. And especially as we get older, our body isn't as good at taking these trace minerals out of our food and dispersing them to the body systems, and so we have to supplement. So just a suggestion. Now, I will say your stones have a lot of these trace minerals in them too, and I do believe that you get a vibrational experience by working with chromium-based stones or manganese-based stones, or there's manganese in your stones, or magnesium in your stones. And sometimes you can actually get magnesium in its mineral form. We had that for you a couple of months ago. But in general, it's good to take it. Now, I like the Calm gummies. I also have another magnesium supplement. I've given you these links before in our Facebook group, and we can share them again, but that's just a suggestion. I love it. Christiana said this is really great timing because she's going to spend time with her mom who's going through surgery, and she's going to need to think about what happens to her energy field. And I would say, this is my own experience, by the way, and I can show you my multivitamins and stuff if you're curious to see that. Not that I know what the best is, but they're right here in the cabinet, so just remind me and I'll kind of pull everything out and show you. The most shamanic experience I ever had was being with my mom as she passed away, and because I literally could feel the two worlds. I could feel her leaving this world and going there, and I could feel myself being here and not being able to leave. And it caused a massive leak. I mean, here's the thing, even when you're really experienced and you kind of know that these things can happen and you anticipate them, it doesn't mean you're not gonna have a problem, that you're not gonna have a challenge. I went into that experience knowing exactly what I was doing, and smudging before and smudging after, and a lot of times when I was spending time with her alone, I would open a circle and I would call in my spirit guides and ascended masters. But I was exhausted. I think I've only stopped being exhausted from her death over the last 3 to 6 months, and it'll be 3 years in August, right? So we have to give ourselves time to manage this energy loss, right? Because some of the leaks are really big. When the energy cords are really old and really established, the leaks are really big, and some of the energy leaks are really small. If it's someone you just met or someone you've only known online, like the cord is much smaller and it's much easier to plug it, right? So yeah, and a lot of you identify with that. Jeanette said something interesting too. Can taking a lot of prescription medications deplete you? Yes. And there's some in particular that are highly depleting. The problem is a lot of us need to take our medication for our health conditions, and so at some point you have to go, okay, these are the medications I'm on. They might be stripping my body of some trace minerals. How do I replace those in a good way? How do I minimize stress and interaction with people who deplete me? And how do I maximize experiences with people who feed me or return energy back to the system? So it's just, and again, even if you get to a point where you're totally aligned and all the leaks are, sealed up and we've extracted, I have my big Vogel here, we've extracted all the energy that you don't want in your field. Tomorrow is another day. And so then you have a conversation at work or something with your partner or your kids, something's going on, or your brothers and sisters and siblings. And then all of a sudden you're back in a state, right, where you're out of balance. So this is always something that we have to manage, right? I look sad. Stressed a little bit. I wasn't sad. Stressed a little bit because of our technical challenges, but thank you. I feel really good, so I hope it comes across. Okay. You don't want a cluttered, chaotic, a noisy environment. Creating a peaceful and organized space is important. Listening to your intuition. Okay. Pay attention. This is on page 2 at the top. And then there's a good question there, a couple good questions that Athena Matt came up with. What do you feel is your instinctive reaction when you're faced with conflict, right? And then what challenging situations have you encountered and how did you respond to them? And then just noticing, like, if you tend to always respond to stress or to agitation or to external vibrations in a particular way, try consciously changing that reaction. Some people find, I've had a lot of clients in this position where they're like, I really let things get to me, is what I hear. So I really want to learn not to let things get to me. And so they move into a place of non-reactivity, right, to stimuli. So something happens to them, their practice is non-reaction. Just to let energy come in and give themselves a specific time to process it before they have a reaction, 12 hours, 24 hours. To breathe, that sacred pause right before they engage. And a lot of times that teaches you not so much about the other person, but about your own reaction to things. So when you're really excited about something, how do you react? When you're really stressed or scared about something, how do you react? When you feel attacked, how do you react? And then just noticing how that energy sits in your central nervous system. Because the reality is, when a stimuli or stimulus comes your way, your body instantly decides, am I in danger or not, right? That's your brain. That's your neurotransmitters. And so we've talked about this before, if your body says, yes, I'm in danger, and all of a sudden the cortisol levels pump, right? If the stimulus says, oh, this is awesome, this is relaxing, this is exciting, then you start producing serotonin and oxytocin and dopamine, right? So that's a whole different set of neurotransmitters that tells your body we're safe. You can learn how to modulate your own neurotransmitters. Have you ever had an experience where you get so upset about something that, and maybe it's not even happening, but you get so upset that your stomach turns, your digestion starts to fail, you start sweating, like your body is engaging neurotransmitters that may not even be accurate. And that's a whole part of this energetic leakage conversation, is giving too much energy to outside influences leads your body into adrenal fatigue. So once there's too much cortisol, not enough serotonin, not enough oxytocin, I call it too much work, not enough play, then our body reacts. So we start putting on weight around the middle, usually between like the boobs and the butt, right? That middle body weight is usually your body under intense duress and stress for extended periods of time, because that's a cortisol deposit. So everything we're talking about tonight, we can manage it a little bit on the energetic side, but we also have to learn how you react to stimuli and train yourself out of reactions that are causing you to have ongoing physical challenges in response to the stimulus, right? Yeah. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, feed. Fuck. It's true. Like those are our, I think Mac put it quite eloquently, right? What do we do when we're under stress? And most of us fight or we fly. We either engage and go, or we get out of dodge, right? So again, we have like modern terms for all this in psychology and in sociology, but it all goes back to these very basic neurological functions. So part of what goes on, so first of all, your current reaction times and experiences to too much energy are based on your childhood experiences. I grew up in a household where people yelled and raised their voices a lot. So I immediately go into fight or flight when I hear yelling. I don't like it, and I don't like to raise my voice, and I don't like to have people yelling at me. It triggers all of this stuff from me as a child, feeling like I'm not safe. As soon as I heard yelling, I was like, what's going on? Okay. You may have a different reaction. You may hear, challenges or experience challenges and go to sleep. Some of you have said that, like you get in bed. That's a freeze or fawn reaction. I'm going to lay down, I'm going to play dead, right? I'm going to go to sleep and kind of wait this storm out and see what happens on the other side of it. That wasn't my reaction. My reaction was, I've got to get out of here. So I would go into flight mode, right? I would go into a different room. I would go to a friend's house. I just wanted to kind of escape the scene. Now as adults, we're doing the same thing, right? I want to get out of places where there's loud voices and loud noises, because that for me stimulates energetic leakage. Okay. Karmic lessons, past life stuff. What happened in a past life for you around different challenges you faced, and what's happening in your current lifetime, and sort of how do we negotiate the difference or similarities too. Fears and phobias are a lot of times past life leakages. My fear and phobia of water is total past life. There's no reason for my fear of water in this lifetime. But I've had so many past life regressions with the same outcome that I was drowned. More specifically, I always feels weird to say it, but I've had multiple regressions where I was shown myself being thrown off a cliff as a sacrifice in Central or South America at some point. That was a common practice. And so my body, when I'm close to water, especially deep water, has this instant reaction of fear, right? And not wanting to go anywhere near it because I've had that experience. Not in this lifetime, but in a different lifetime. That's an energy leak. So that when that fear comes up, that's where, and fear oftentimes sits in our solar plexus and sits in our root. And so in this lifetime, I experience all the trauma every time, right? Because it's a leak and I haven't resolved it yet. So the key to overcoming traumas and phobias from the past is to identify where that leak is and resolve the leak, because the leak can be healed across timelines, and that's where a lot of this is really a shamanic practice. Soul contracts, emotional triggers. This is all page 3. Intuitive insights, vivid dreams, recurring relationships. If we have a leakage in a relationship and we don't address it, we don't heal it, the same leakage tends to show up in the next relationship. We've talked about that. So if someone is constantly triggering you and you feel unsafe or you feel insecure or you feel unloved or unwanted or things like that, again, looking at the childhood can give us cues, and then also looking at past life regression therapy. So once you identify the pattern, this is middle of page 3, these are some tools and approaches you can use to gain insight. So past life regression therapy, meditation and visualization, dream work, and then a lot of the work that we do, working with herbs and flowers and living, essential oils and vibrational essences and things can also help. And stones, for sure. I mean, I think crystals are a big part of the medicine for these challenges. Okay, so conflict and epigenetics. Epigenetics, top of page 4. Epigenetics is really just understanding how your external environment impacts or influences your internal environment. And it's the connection between everything that happened in your lineage before you and your present lifetime. For a lot of us, that's really complicated because our ancestors didn't communicate and didn't write things down. So it's hard for me to track my own epigenetic responses to stress because I don't really know. And in that generation, my grandmother's generation, for example, they didn't talk about these things. It was kind of taboo. We're now in a place where we have more conversations about this, right? We've sort of demystified it. But in that generation, if you said, oh, this happened to me and this is how I responded, or I was abused as a child, there was a lot of stigma around these things that would cause people not to communicate about them. And yes, we'll talk about leakage locations too, because that matters. So if you have something in your solar plexus, a leak in your solar plexus, that's very different from a leak in your heart chakra. And how that shows up in your life is going to be different too. So on page 4, I don't want to go through all the way through it, but you can follow some of these tips and suggestions to navigate these. So reflect on your triggers, explore your family history, practice self-awareness, right? Start to notice your own patterns, reframe your responses. I talked about this before. So, hey, I always respond to triggers, or I've always responded to triggers or leaks this way. Now I'm going to start responding this other way and see if it helps me manage my energy differently. And then meditation, energy healing, therapy. I haven't had as much success with therapy, and I worked with an epigenetic specialist for a while. So it's not that I don't want to say that I don't love therapy, because I really do, but I just think sometimes we have to go a little bit into the metaphysical and really understand things on a deeper energetic level, because for me, talk therapy has not gotten me into the groundwater of some of these challenges the same way that shamanic work has for me, or plant medicine has. Now, on page 5, top of page 5, I think boundaries are really important. I think we have to decide how we're going to manage boundaries, because I think it's a kind of a word that gets thrown around, and that means different things to different people. I think we can be over boundaried, meaning we have too many boundaries, we keep everybody out. I think we need more filtering than boundary work when it comes to leakage. So if you know somebody tends to cause these reactions in you, I think you need to filter their access to you. And if you have to spend time with them all the time, then you can get into techniques like the bubbling technique, imagining yourself in a bubble of light where they are at least 2 feet away from you, visualization of this, which keeps them at an energetic distance. Working with stones that filter energy, like pedalite's really good, isurine is really good, shungite is the best for making sure that what comes in to your field is manageable for you. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in a constant state of psychic overwhelm, which we've all been there, but doesn't really serve us at the end of the day, right? So yeah, discernment is the key. If we don't have good boundaries, we end up with energetic leakages. If we have too many boundaries, then we can't be in that intuitively intimate space that we want to be with other people, right? So we start feeling the disconnect. It's hard to manifest when you have too many boundaries, because you've basically built a wall around yourself, and it's sort of like, okay, well, how do I create outside of this barricade I've made for myself? So I think all of that is really important. Self-compassion, celebrating your progress, note the biggest progress you're going to make, I think, after tonight. And one of you said, and I can't remember who said it, but kudos. That all of this takes us back to a lot of the work that we've been doing over the last couple of weeks, understanding your own patterns, your own responses, your own behaviors. So yeah, it's a constant process, but I think it's really important to look in your life and say, where do I need to let certain people closer, and where do I need to create stronger filtration around other people? And then the reason everybody likes stones for this is the stones kind of do the work for you. So you can always carry shungite when you're around your mom or whatever. Or if you're going to be caring for someone long term, I had a shungite pyramid in my mom's room forever. Just because the energy was so heavy of her illness and her disease. And I was very conscious that every time I would leave her, I was exhausted. Even if I came in with a full night's sleep and lots of caffeine and all those things, right? So psychic vampires on page 5. Is a concept, as we say in the notes here, that has been conflated with narcissism. This is kind of a different thing. It's often used to describe people who seek constant attention and manipulate people for their own purposes and things. But a psychic vampire is a little bit different than that. A lot of times it's not a conscious process. People are not always aware of how much they ask energetically. And so the most important thing you can do, I think, as a healer is to go into your work with a tight container of your own, which will help you not siphon energy or filter energy away from other people, consciously or subconsciously. I think narcissism is a conscious energetic experience where someone is consciously trying to take from you. We also call it harvesting in shamanism. Shamanism doesn't talk about narcissism. And I think at some point even psychology is not going to talk about it because it's such a misunderstood, radically widely applied term. There's only a few people who are really sociopathically narcissistic. It's a very small percentage. And that is real. But I also think there's a whole class of folks who are not aware of how they run their energy. And so they are constantly sort of draining from other people, and they haven't learned how to hold their energy, which allows them to give without taking. And that, I think, is really important conscious training for someone who is going to be working with other people in a healing capacity. One of the metaphors that one of my teachers uses that I think is really powerful for this is people who say they can't go to concerts. Do you have friends like this? I love going to music concerts, big ones. I find it energizing. I just went to Madonna, and it was like one of the coolest experiences. I'm getting ready to go to Janet Jackson in June. I love big concerts. Some people feel like they can't go. Why is that? Because they feel like they're always in the mosh pit, right? They're always down in front of the stage where there's no assigned seating, and it's just it's like a, free for all, right? Everybody's taking and throwing and, doing whatever they do energetically, and it's like they just feel overwhelmed. Versus someone who has an assigned seat, feels like they can manage the energy, they can see from where they are, they can see their surroundings, and their personal space is not necessarily going to be violated. So the goal, energetically, is to be able to be in a mosh pit, which is basically human life, right? To be a parent and a partner and have a job and go to work every day and then come home and immediately switch gears to be in your home environment. Like, life is a mosh pit. So it's a great metaphor for, are you able to go into any environment and hold your own? That's the goal, is that you don't feel psychically overwhelmed, whether you're in a shopping mall or a concert. And the number one key to that is figuring out where these leaks are and managing them and sealing them so that you walk into your relationships, walk into your home, walk into your job as an integrated whole person that has an integrated, completely intact energy field. That's the goal. Okay, so we talk about this on page 5, crowdsourcing energy, right? That can be very overwhelming. Elemental energy, psychic vampires replenish their energy by drawing from natural sources. The intense for sex with partners can produce a lot of energy, right? Sexual partners can be vampires too. It's very true. Especially if there isn't kind of exchange, you know what I mean? If you don't feel like there is an exchange during sex or during deep intimate conversations or anything like that, that's a sign that someone is just sort of harvesting from the host and not returning that energy. So how do you know if you're around someone who's vampiring you? Number 5, or page 5, chronic fatigue, emotional instability. These are people who kind of just want, right? And no matter what you give them, it's not enough. They want more. Have you had experiences like this? I've had really intimate relationships like this where it's just like no matter what I pour into that well, it's like it's not enough. You could have done this. You should have done that. I want more of this, less of that. That is a really strong sign that you are in an energetically draining relationship, and you need to see, because if you're constantly giving and you're not taking, you're not receiving anything, there's no exchange, and those kinds of relationships are not sacred. There has to be something that you're receiving from the relationship. So if all it is just a constant, you could have done this, you should have done that, and then you look and you go, every relationship should have an exchange. So what are you receiving from your relationships versus what are you giving is a very important part of this conversation. If you find yourself seeking validation on page 5, that's a sign that you have an energy leak. Because in reality, with an intact energy field, you should not need external validation. It's nice to have it, but you should feel like you have everything you need. If you're constantly looking outside yourself for validation, or feeling good enough, feeling worthy or whatever, that's a sign. Dependence on others. And then ultimately what all of this leads to is the inability to give. And I've been there too, honestly, in the last couple of years, where I just feel like so depleted, and I'm trying to figure out where I can draw energy from without vampiring. So ultimately this whole cycle of the last 3 years for me has been this process of like, where am I feeding from? I have to find a source, right? And the answer at the end of the day to all of this is the only place you can ethically source your energy is source. That's the only place you can ethically draw it. And that's the only well you can't deplete, right? Your relationships, you can deplete them because they're human beings. So whether it's relationships with your kids or your partner or your friends or your parents or whatever it is, no matter how much people love you, they're human, right? So they don't have an infinite well to draw from. But source energy is literally an infinite well. So we have to figure out how to draw from that source, and that, I think, is the work of a lifetime, especially if you find yourself in those positions. So on number 6, on page 6, the goal, the task is to heal these places where you have these leakages, practice self-awareness, strengthen your boundaries, focus on self-care, truly. I've really thought about, I'm not, because writing books is hard, but I've so often thought about writing a book called How to Put Your Mask On First. It's like, how do you engage in self-care? When you see memes and people on social media, they'll say kind of silly things like, take a hot bath, or go on vacation or something like that. But what's the actual day-to-day protocol for making sure that your needs are taken care of first? I think it's so important to start every day with, what do I need right now, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, physically, that I don't have? And what is the most ethical, easy, immediate way to fill that need? The ethical part is the key. So I can't just go to my partner and expect my partner to fix it for me. I can't just go to my kids and throw myself into parenting and expect that to fix it. What do I need to fill my well? And then thinking about things that you really can provide for yourself. So what's your physical nourishment look like? What does your spiritual nourishment look like? Are you having fun? Do you have hobbies? Do you have things that you enjoy? Did you have hobbies when you were younger that you abandoned and you could go back to, that will rejuvenate you? It's part of why I garden, right? It's why I spend so much time in the kitchen. Cooking does that for me. Reading does that for me. I know these might sound silly to you. And then sometimes, honestly, like it's totally taking time and space out just to indulge my spiritual practice. So having a plant medicine ceremony, or a couple of weeks ago I went to the botanical gardens, right, with a friend of mine who was doing Reiki with me. Like this isn't a sidetrack. This is you absolutely putting your needs first, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. but you also shouldn't ethically be drawing from other people's energy too. And then emotional self-regulation, again, work of a lifetime. For me, because our central nervous system is either regulated or dysregulated all the time. Some of us have central nervous system health challenges, right? Like me, where I'm physically dysregulated, and so I'm constantly having to monitor my own CNS, my own central nervous system. And again, there's crystals that are really good for this. We know that sugilite's really good for the central nervous system. Udilite's very good for the central nervous system. Most of our manganese-based stones are very good for the central nervous system, and then our carbon-based stones, like the little Pachamar diamonds that you have for your crafting tonight, or this is for tonight, right? We are doing the rattling piece tonight, right? Or am I off on that too? There isn't much on the in the worksheets about the rattle, but I think that is tonight's tool. So I briefly want to say a couple things. Now, these little Pachamar diamonds that we gave you in your little packet are meant to be attached or affixed to your rattle. That's optional. I'm not going to fix them to my rattle because the way I play my rattle, at some point they're going to come off, and I don't want that to happen. But what I will say is I do want you to hold on to these because think of them like seeds, okay? Pachamars and Herkimers just come from different places. Herkimers come from Herkimer, New York. Pachamars come from Pakistan. These are little seeds. These are tools that you can work with to raise your vibration, and because it's clear quartz is something that we work with in tracking, right? We use scanner wands to track. You can actually, if you hold one of these, so I'm going to give you a couple of little tips to work with these, and then you can decide what you want to attach to your rattle. Yeah, so I'm going to get to the rattle too, and then we're going to frost our cake. But I don't want to rush through this part because this is really important. So when you get take your little Pachamars out of your bag, but be careful because they're so small you could lose them. If you just take one of them, okay, and hold it in your left hand, cover it with your right hand, and I want you to pull up the energy of someone in your life that you're very close to. I'm going to try it with the energy of one of my kids. So I want you to, as you hold this little tiny crystal, I want you to close your eyes and really focus on that person's energy. And with your right hand, I want you to imagine sending that person's energy into that crystal. And now, there's a couple of fun exercises you can do with a Pachamar or Herkimer like this, because it's a transmitter. So this is now sending and receiving energy between me and my child. If you hold it out to the left side and you receive their energy, take a deep breath. Like, how do you feel? What are the instant words or thoughts or feelings that come to mind? And I'm just listening. No attachment to what you're hearing or feeling, but what's in that person's energy field right now. You can even use a pendulum to geolocate them. Physically, is he to the left of me? Physically, is he to the right of me? Which is true in terms of his location right now. Are the energies that I picked up accurate for him? And then when you transfer this person's crystal to your right hand, that's your sending hand. What you can do, if you have permission, you can do a whole lot of things with this crystal. You can send them different energies, or you can send them healing. I don't have his permission right now to be doing those things. So what I'm doing with my right hand is I'm sensing what is he sending to me. So putting the crystal out there, just to track the energy. What is he sending to me right now or today? It feels like a lot of energy. So again, you can use your pendulum just to check in with the energy. And then what's really cool as a, if you make sacred tools for people, some of you do, after you work with the stone, you could, let's say you're making a rattle for that person, you could attach that crystal to that rattle. You could make them an incense blend and put the crystal in the incense. You could make them a perfume, put the crystal in the perfume. Or if you're making a blend for that relationship, if you're working on something with your partner, that little crystal now is attuned to the frequency between you both, and it will help you track the energy. So I just want to put that out there. Those little Pachamers are, to me, they are like little diamonds. So treat those preciously. I think it'd be fun for us to put them in the incense for this month, or like I said, into a essential oil blend that you're working with. Just be careful you don't put them anywhere where they get eaten or end up in your love cake. Okay, so but what I am putting on my rattle tonight first, because I'm giving this one away, and again I'll post it in the group, is the pink tanzanite that I brought for you from Tucson. So this is for intuition and love. I'm going to place it. And like I said, I'm using a very light adhesive, so when you get your rattle, if you don't like it on there for you, you can take it off and put something else there, but I wanted you to have it. So may the recipient of this wand be blessed by intuition and love. I wish I could turn it to show you how beautiful it is on top. You see? You can see the little twin points on there. Okay, so while that dries, and I wanted to do this before we frost our cake. It's the end of the weekend. We had our technical challenges today. So when we move energy with a rattle, what we're doing is we're breaking up energy that isn't integrated, energy that is coming into your field that isn't intended for you, vibrations that aren't in alignment for you. And you can even do this over the ingredients of your food, right? Clearing anything from rose water, the pistachios, my sugar, my rose petals, and then through your own field. And so what you want to do is start at the end of your left hand, move the rattle through your heart, extend your right hand, move the rattle through the right arm and fingers, bring it back, and then you want to rattle at the heart, and then bring it up over your head, back to the heart, and then down to the feet. Do both of your feet, and through. And then part of my practice is always to bring the rattle all the way around you. So, because you're doing the whole front, but energy gets stuck behind. So rattling all the way behind you. And then grabbing it with your other hand and bringing it all the way around. And back to the heart. So the heart is always like the power source. It's where you begin your rattling. And then again, you can go all the way up through the chakras, back down, all the way down and around. But you always want to get all the way over both of your hands. And I love this one because it's not a very loud, jingle or anything. It's just very subtle and very quiet, and it's portable. You can travel with this rattle. And I love that it just kind of sits on its own on your altar, just like that. So I'll post a picture of this one afterward in our Facebook group, and then you'll have a chance to comment for a couple of days to win that. I think it looks beautiful on there. But I won't judge you if you take it off, because that would be a beautiful crystal for you to wire wrap. And like I said, you can take all the little Pachamers we gave you and affix them around the edge, or add them to your, make a little magic bottle for your apothecary in your own house, and just keep a little small bottle of them there, so that they're already like sort of charged and ready to go and can be incorporated into your tools. Okay, other types of rattles I just want to tell you about briefly tonight. This is called the chacapa. This is from Peru. We had these as tools, if you remember. And so this is actually a class tool from eons ago, but I love it so much. These are made from the Pariana tree, the leaves of the Pariana tree. And in Quechua, chacapa means rattle. So this is literally just a shamanic rattle. And it's so effective. You can do the same technique I just taught you, right? Where you bring it through the left, out over the right, up over your head, and and then down over your feet, and then right behind you. It's hard over here. And then always back to your heart. And you can do it to other people. I've traveled with this one, so it's not in the best shape, but I've gone and done ceremonies and put it in my bag, and I've traveled with it on an airplane before. So this is a well-loved chicapa. We don't have them anymore. They're not easy to get. These were handmade for us too, so that was kind of a cool thing. And then, but any kind of rattle works, and I will tell you, we talked about this in class. In worst case scenarios, a bottle of Advil or vitamins, but these are obviously custom-made rattles that were made for me. And so these are two of my favorites. I have quite a few rattles, but I kind of just have them wherever I do most of my work, because it's at least a couple times a week where I'm just like, I need to rattle that out. And you'll feel different after you do it. And again, it's not the sound, it's more the intention that creates the potency of the rattling. But you can hear the difference between sand and beans, right? And then metal. So it's just a tonation different. It's difference. It's not, one isn't more effective than the other. It's just the difference in the sound and the experience you have in terms of how you hear it. So you'll learn kind of your preferences for types of rattles and materials, and then there's a whole world of people who make beautiful rattles by hand too. Your sinuses opened up when I did that. Yay! Yeah, and rain sticks are awesome rattles, you know. I mean, we traditionally use our rain sticks turning them this way, but you can definitely use your rain stick to rattle, and a lot of times they're made with seeds or sand because they have such a subtle, beautiful sound, and that softness of that sound is made by using finely ground or very small particles as opposed to larger beans and pods and things that sometimes get used. Ikaros. So an Ikaro is a sacred medicine song, I-C-A-R-O. I have them on all my ayahuasca playlists on SoundCloud, so if you want to hear a traditional Ikaro, you can find them there. The reason that Ikaros are so sacred is they're traditionally played while the shaman is rattling. So I can give you just a quick example of what that would sound like. So, if you like that, there's a playlist on my SoundCloud called Ikaros, and it's about an hour of my favorite shaman performing my favorite Ikaros for a ceremony. And what a beautiful accompaniment, right? Couldn't you just do that all night long? So that playlist is a great playlist. You can also just search Ikaros if you're on SoundCloud or Spotify, even Pandora. You can find stations of Ikaros, but these are my favorites. Those 8 songs are really the best in my experience. and 2 of them are by Herbert Quinteros, who's one of my favorite shamans. So enjoy. That's already there. You probably already have SoundCloud, but may not have played that playlist, so I wanted to inspire you tonight. Okay, you ready to make some frosting? I'm gonna go flip my my meat. Maybe I can bring it over here. It's kind of heavy, and then we'll make frosting. I just wanted to show you dinner. It needs to be turned. Let's see. Beautiful. So those are 3 good sized roasts. These have now been cooking for a little over 2 hours. So just turning them over because it's cooking down in its own juice now. And then when we're done, I'm going to add a whole onion to this. Probably has another 2 hours to go before that's ready for dinner. Yeah. And again, that's just tri-tip, salt, pepper, and olive oil, and then I'll add an onion. That's it. But you can do all kinds of other things with that to make it versatile. Okay, for the last part of our magic this evening, we are making icing for our Persian love cake. And the recipe you have is the recipe we're following. So all of these ingredients, I just want to walk you through because that is the finished cake right there. It was super easy, okay? So what you start by doing is a couple of tips. It's nice to work with butter at room temperature, nice to work with eggs at room temperature when you're baking. So I put my unsalted butter out an hour and a half before I baked the cake. Same with my 4 eggs. They were out at room temperature. Okay, so the first step is you combine your 2 flours. If you want to do just almond flour, you can do that. I did regular flour, and I did enriched flour, and I did almond flour as a combination. With your baking soda powder, baking soda, and salt, and you're whisking that. The reason is you don't want any clumps, and you don't want your salt all in one place, right? When you mix the dry and the wet ingredients, you want to have a good balance of everything there. Set that aside. Then you put your butters, your sugar, your lemon or lime zest, and your cardamom in a stand mixer or with your hand beaters. You're going to beat that for 2 minutes. Again, if your butter's at room temperature, it's going to turn out much better because it's going to cream more easily. If your butter's hard, what I would recommend is just pop it in the microwave for 10 seconds. Watch it. You don't want to melt or overcook your butter because then you'll have like kind of a burned butter taste in your food, which doesn't turn out really good. Okay, and then you're going to add your eggs one at a time. That's easy peasy. And then you're going to scrape the bowl, add buttermilk and rose water, incorporate one more time, and then add the dry ingredients. That's your batter. In the pan it goes. I greased my silicone pan, and I also put I measured and put a round piece of parchment paper in the bottom. That's so that your cake doesn't stick. There's nothing worse than spending all this time and money on a beautiful cake and then it sticks to the bottom of your pan. How many times has that happened to you? So as somebody who's baked for a long time, use silicone, grease it nicely, but always use parchment in the bottom. It'll help it come out more easily. Okay, so now we're going to whisk together the powdered sugar, rose water, and some lemon and lime juice. And again, this all comes down to texture and consistency. So follow the recipe, but you may need to, as some of you have said, you had to add water. You can also add more citrus juice if you want. If you don't want to dilute the flavor of it, citrus juice is a nice way to thin your icing. So it's calling for 1 cup of powdered sugar. So I'm adding that to my bowl. And remember, this is, for me, cake is the masculine and frosting is the feminine. I know that's weird. So I tend to focus on more masculine energy when I am baking my cake, and I tend to focus more on the feminine, kind of a Shakti energy when I am making my frosting. And again, I'm not measuring super carefully. Now you can sift your powdered sugar or just go through it with the whisk just to break up any lumps. The whole secret of a glaze like this is you want it to be very smooth. You don't want to have lumps and bumps in your love cake frosting. So the history of this cake, by the way, is that a Persian girl fell in love with a prince. She was not royal. So there was all this controversy about, was she the right partner for this person? She was completely in love, and he was in love too. And so she thought, the best way I can seduce this man is to bake him a cake. Now, pistachios and rose petals, I don't know if you know this, were really for a long period of time the exclusive products of Iran. It was very hard to get pistachios outside of Iran, and it was very hard to get rose petals outside of Iran because those were really powerful and profitable exports for Iran. Now you can get pistachios that are grown elsewhere. The Queen of Sheba is said to have quarantined all pistachio production because she felt like it had magic properties, that it brought fertility, that it brought strength, and so she didn't want enemies to have access to pistachios. She was very careful about that. And roses have always been thought to bring passion and desire. So this is a love, passion, desire, fertility cake. We've done our 1 cup of powdered sugar. Now we're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of rose water. Again, I'm using my sawed off, but you can use any kind that you like. I just find that some of them are a little too alcohol-y flavored, and I don't like that. So 1.5 teaspoons of rose water. Okay. And then we are doing 1 tablespoon of lemon or lime juice. And you're going to see this quickly come into a consistency that is perfect. I'm going to use, I have lemon from my garden that I saved for today that I'm going to use for my juice. And I also used the same lemon for my zest. So it's nice if you can just use one for both. And you need about 1 tablespoon of lemon or lime juice. I mean, you can measure it if you want, but my Meyer lemon tree doesn't have seeds. The nice thing about cooking with it, although I say that and one just came out, but it doesn't have many seeds. So I don't have to worry too much about seeds when I work with that, with my own Meyer lemons. Okay, and then the last step is to mix. So we're looking for texture and consistency. I also like to have quite a bit of frosting. It depends on how you roll with frosting. I'm gonna keep adding some lime juice here and some more lemon juice and rose water. Shit, put 2 more seeds in there. If I hadn't said anything about it being mostly seedless, it wouldn't have done that. Is this it off? Yeah. And then if it gets too runny, you can just add more powdered sugar, but the result is going to be enough glaze to frost your cake. And this is looking really nice. You want to be able to pour it, otherwise it's not going to have the effect. And you see how it's getting to that consistency. So when I make this, as I'm going clockwise and blending everything together, I try to set my intention. So my intention is that this cake will bring love to everyone who eats it. That they'll feel loved. They'll feel that divine, feminine, juicy, passionate, unconditional love vibration. And I'm excited because, and one of the nice things about using citrus in your glaze is that you see how beautifully smooth it is. There's no lumps. That turned out just perfect. Let me taste it. I wish you were here. I would stick my finger in it and feed you. There's something about the rose water and the, it needs a little bit more rose water, but there's something about the rose water and the citrus that it's just so good. Okay, let me make sure I can pour. Yeah, that looks really nice. Okay, so now I'm gonna take my cake over here. I'm gonna take my cake platter. Bring my cake over. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. So just quickly around the cake with your knife to loosen it. And then return and release. Voila, parchment. It looks beautiful, darling. Kiss the cook. And it smells amazing. It looks beautiful. So now we're going to take our icing, and again, you can put it on the round part, but it looks kind of nice when you do it on the flat side. And pour down the middle, and kind of work your way out. And again, I always do things clockwise. I think it's just my magical training. I was always taught, you know, to move in clockwise circles. It's sending energy out. And keep going. The longer you take to spread your icing, the more time you have to really think about your intention for how it will be consumed, this cake. And if there's bubbles, you can pour a little bit of the frosting over. And, you know, from my perspective, you can never have too much frosting. So I think I almost doubled the recipe by adding that last bit of lime juice and rose water to the mix. But, you know, it should be fun. Like, this should be kind of an exciting process. You're sealing your intentions. The limes and lemons represent the sweet and sour of life, right? The rose represents passion and desire. The sugar represents the sweetness of life and love. And I don't know if the story is true, to be honest with you. A lot, you know, as with all stories. But I do love the idea that she made this for him, and her whole intention was to seduce. And so the legend goes, there's two ways that story ended. One was he ate it and fell in love, and they were together forever. And the other is she ate it and fell in love with herself, and decided she didn't need him and moved her truck right along. And I don't, you know, good for her. Where's my spatula? Okay, good for her. Just moving that around a little bit, and if, you know, if there's bubbles, you can kind of smooth it, send it out to the edges. Martha Stewart yourself into oblivion. It is nice to take it just to the edges of the cake. I don't want to disrupt the surface of it too much, just to the edges. And that looks beautiful. I needed a little bit more right there for it hardens. Now, are you with me? This is the best part. Okay. So now we're just going to add our pistachios. So we're envisioning fertility, prosperity, all the properties of pistachio, power. So some of the legends say that you know, in ancient Persia, they didn't want to release pistachios to the world because they thought they brought power, and they didn't want other people to have that power. So, and I will also say, you can't overdo your pistachio because it tastes so good. It gives a little bit of crunch to the cake. So if you like pistachios, go heavy on the pistachio. I love pistachios, but if they're not your jam, or if you're allergic to nuts, some people are, As a Greek person, I would be the kind of the end of reality for me. But if you can't have nuts for any reason and you don't want to go heavy on the pistachio, also if you fucked anything up, that's a great way to cover up your mistakes. And then the rose petals. So, like I said, I don't want to eat rose petals. So I'm literally doing like the lightest dusting of these just for the color and the energy, but not to really get big bites of it in my mouth. I don't want that. And the more you can kind of grind it up with your fingers, the better, because then you get little red bits without the big chunks of rose. And then again, it's your intention. So passion, desire, imagine her making this. She wants him to fall in love. They want to be together forever, right? This is the ultimate love story. It's a seduction cake. But that's why you don't want your lover having big chunks of like rose in his mouth or her mouth. That's not sexy. That's just gross. So I think that's pretty good. I need one more little zhuzh of it over here and then I'm done. And I want to see yours. So if you end up making it, please post pictures in our Facebook group so I can go and enjoy your creation. And that is Persian love cake. So what's for dinner tonight? Yeah, which jar did you want to see? This is the pistachio powder. Mine is from Amazon. The brand is Gusto. And it's literally the ingredients just say ingredients pistachios. So, but some of you really want your pistachios to be organic, and so you'll want to grind your own pistachios up, and you can do that. I'm always doing 10 things at once, so this was easier for me. But you can do it either way. And again, these are organic, food grade rose petals, and you can work all kinds of magic with that. You could sprinkle a little bit of cardamom on top. Isn't it beautiful? So I'm gonna take a, oh no, do I not? Oh, I do have my phone. I'm gonna take a picture of it, and then I'm gonna cut a slice to show you the inside. But I want a picture of it first. I have to do these things in real time with you because we're doing it in real time. Let's see, I'm gonna put it over here so it's pretty. Hold on. Okay, and now the moment we've all been waiting for. Normally I would wait and let the frosting settle, to harden a little bit, because it will get kind of harder over the next hour or so, but I just want to cut one slice so that you can see it. And I wish you were here because this is a lot of cake. But I have a couple of freezing instructions for you. I'm just gonna cut the tiniest little slice right now because I want to really wait till it sets to eat most of it. But look how beautiful, you guys. I'll show you. If this doesn't get a Persian prince to marry you, you can fuck off. Find a new prince. Oh, did I say that out loud? Look how beautiful it is. Okay, first bite. Live with you here. Persian love cake. It's so fucking good. Oh my God, you guys. Oh my God. I'm telling you, it is. It's moist. It's incredible. It's easy. And be careful, because you start making this, and then everybody for their birthday is going to be like, I want Persian love cake. It is so good. If you were here, I would just feed you. I literally would bring this knife up to your mouth and fork. Okay. Couple of things very important to tell you about Persian love cake. The aftermath, okay? If anything's left, which, like, here there will be because there's only 2 of us eating. And then I'll share with the kids, but you know, if you have cake left, I'm gonna probably take it to the office too. Leave this out at room temperature. Do not put this in the refrigerator. You probably know this already because it kind of holds true for every cake, but cakes go stale in the refrigerator. You should never put a cake in the fridge. Unless you have something with like a cream cheese frosting where it's gonna go rancid, but this will not. This glaze will not harden, but kind of come together and congeal a little bit, be where the texture it needs to be in the next like 2 hours. So I would finish all of this. And look, by the way, it's like oozing down into the... This is the piece I want next. Where all that frosting went down in the gap, that's what I want next. It freezes beautifully. So anything you don't eat in the next 48 hours, what I do is I get the meal prep plastic containers from Amazon, and I freeze the slices because then it's so easy to take one out. All you do is the night before you want to have it, like if you want to have it for breakfast the next day, take one of the Tupperware out of the freezer, just leave it on the countertop. By the morning, it'll be defrosted and perfectly ready for you to eat at room temperature. Don't microwave this. It will make your glaze really funky. So again, room temperature on your kitchen counter for 2 days, nothing in the refrigerator. If you can't eat it in 2 days, it goes into the freezer. It will beautifully, come together. Yeah, he's a pistachio person, so have to see how he does with the rose water. But he's a pistachio person, so I think he will absolutely, this will be his jam. So it's going to be tri-tip and asparagus for dinner in about an hour, and Persian love cake for dessert. My cake pan is a standard 9-inch silicone pan. I do love the silicone pans. I know they're not always easy to find. Amazon has them. They're actually really cheap. But the one trick I want to tell you with a silicone pan, you want to bake it on a cookie sheet, okay? Because, not because it overflows while it's cooking, but because the silicone is kind of shaky, you want to give it a foundation to bake on. So I baked it on a cookie sheet, and then when you bring it out, I transferred the silicone pan to a cooling rack so that it was cool and ready for me to frost in like 20 minutes. If you leave it on the original baking tray, it's going to be hot, and then it's going to take a long time. Yeah, I think you can eat it in 2 days. And honestly, listen, you have people in your life who need this, and then you can tell them the story. This is a love cake. Its history dates us back to ancient Persia, where a non-royal fell in love with a prince, and what could she do but bake him the ultimate love cake? And then you can tell your side of the story. Do you want it to be that she didn't give him any, and then she ate it all, and she fell in love with herself and didn't need him anymore? Or do you want it to be that he had a slice and couldn't resist her, so they lived happily ever after? So that's the size of the pan. Like I said, the ingredients, if you don't have them, you can find them on Amazon. But if you have a Mediterranean or a Middle Eastern market, go and see them. You will find so much stuff there. That's a great place to get olive oil, by the way, because olive oil gets very expensive. So getting it at your local international grocer is a good idea. But I guarantee you're going to walk in there and find all kinds of things that you had no idea existed. So make a trip to your local Middle Eastern or Mediterranean market. This is called pistachio flour, but it's just ground pistachio. You can see the texture of it here. So what's in this jar is on this cake. It's lazy. I could have put my pistachios in my food processor on a fine grind and gotten the same result. And it may have tasted better. But this saved me a little bit of time. And also, I like this on yogurt, Greek yogurt, with a little bit of Greek honey and this pistachio flour. Especially if you do like an orange blossom honey, is really, really, really good. Also, this on ice cream, this pistachio flour on vanilla ice cream with a drizzle of olive oil and some sea salt is the best dessert you will ever have. So this becomes like your ultimate ice cream topper. And like I said, pistachios are known for magic and fertility and all those things. Which olive oil do I prefer? I actually have a... This is a subject of some discussion in my household, but I got this olive oil. We use a lot because every morning we make Greek eggs in olive oil, and then I cook all my meat and my chicken in olive oil. This is from Baja, Mexico, and it's incredible. I did get this on Amazon. It's a gallon of it. Yeah, and it's actually distributed out of Santa Fe Springs here in California, but it's called Baja Precious, and it's really good. Really good green first press. Now, there's 2 other olive oils, if you want to know, that I highly recommend, okay? This is from Greece. It's expensive. It's called Potomia. And it's really, really good. I use this very sparingly because it's really, really good, but it's directly imported from Greece. The one you can find most easily that I want you to see this sits on my kitchen table. It's called Graza, and it is a finishing olive oil. This is for your salads. This is for on top of your eggs. This is for eating your bread and your vinegar, because it's not a cooking oil. These are more expensive. They're better quality. They have that really rich, nutty olive flavor. When you're cooking, you want to use second press or lower grade olive oil because you're going to burn off all the flavor anyway. So the good stuff, the finishing olive oils, are for what's actually going to go in your mouth raw, and then the lower grade stuff is what you want to cook with, right? And then I do there's garlic and rosemary in my olive oil bottle. So what I use, this is my cooking oil, so it's not as high a grade. You can tell it's a lighter gold as opposed to the green. So the green is more of a finishing. Looks like I have an olive oil problem, doesn't it? I mean, I probably do. But I have very specific uses for all these. Most people are just like, isn't olive oil olive oil? And it's like, no. Yeah, so there's cooking olive oil and there's finishing oil. The first press is for finishing. The second press, the lower grade, is for cooking. Yeah. And rosemary is really good in olive oil. So is garlic. You can put, whatever you want to infuse your oil with, but it is really nice how it keeps it keeps the flavors. I would only drink the finishing oils. If you want to do a shot of it, like if you're constipated, I'm sure you know that a shot of olive oil is like all you need. It's nature's laxative. But I would use a finishing oil if you're just taking shots of it, or if you're doing it for cardiovascular reasons, because it's really good for cardiac health. Finishing oil is good, what you're gonna use. Yeah, don't ask to see my tea cabinet. It's obscene. But you know what? A lot of you have ones worse than mine. So before you would judge me for having a tea problem, I would highly encourage you to look at your own collection. I always think I've got a substantial collection of Magic Hour teas, and then one of you will post, and I'm like, I look like a beginner. So don't judge me. I'm very particular about tea. I'm very particular about olive oil. Wine? No, I don't. Some people are really picky about wine. I'm not. I will drink a nice Cabernet from wherever you get it, but you give me shitty olive oil, I'm not coming to dinner at your house anymore. Yeah, Paulette's got a Magic Hour collection that puts mine to shame, and Zena's a friend of mine. I do use her tea towels. I'm kind of obsessed with her tea towels. I just washed these. So I use her tea towels in my kitchen, sometimes as like oven mitts if I'm lazy, and they just look pretty hanging in different places. So the tea cabinet. All right, well, cheers, you guys. I'm going to go and post this in our Facebook group before I forget right now. I hope you enjoyed tonight. Thank you for your patience. You're gonna judge me? Thank you for your patience tonight. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I hope if you made our Persian love cake that you enjoy every slice, and that it brings all the love and all the magic and all the passion and all the excitement in your life. So cheers. All right, go enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'm going to finish cooking dinner here from my home to yours. Thank you for being here tonight. So I will see you soon. We have class this week, session 3. So we're going backward a little bit in order. So session 3 is happening this week. So I'm looking forward to that. We have Beltane on Wednesday. So we have session 3 on Tuesday, Beltane on Wednesday, something else on Thursday, I think. So lots coming. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and make sure you comment on the post in the Facebook group before midnight tomorrow, Monday. That way, if you're watching the replay, you don't miss out on all the magic. I feel like I pulled my whole kitchen out tonight to show you, but it was a lot of fun. And hopefully you enjoyed hearing about dinner too. And maybe I'll come live when we do the stuff checking for you, the coat top below. All right, cheers.